The corridors of Beulah High School echoed with the clatter of expensive shoes and loud gossip. It was a school for the rich, the children of politicians, oil tycoons, and expatriates. But in a hidden corner behind the science lab, beneath a flickering fluorescent light, sat a janitor's closet, filled with the scent of soap, sweat, and silent sacrifice. It was there that Mama Sarah spent her days, a soft-spoken woman with callous palms, tired eyes, and a past buried deeper than her mop bucket. Nobody noticed Mama Sarah, and she preferred it that way. She moved like a ghost through the halls, cleaning up the messes of spoiled children who wouldn't remember her name. But every evening, once the school emptied, she stayed back for one boy, Dan. A sickly, quiet boy with sad eyes and no last name on his record. Everyone assumed he was just another scholarship case, lucky to be in the school by chance. They didn't know he lived in the servants' quarters. They didn't know the cleaner who mopped the floors was his mother. Mama Sarah had pulled strings and swallowed her pride to get Dan into Beulah. She'd begged the principal, clean extra shifts for free, and even taken the fall for a scandal that would have destroyed a teacher's career. She had done everything to hide the truth. Because Dan was not supposed to exist. Not in this school. Not in this world. Not with the blood that ran through his veins. Dan always knew there were things he couldn't ask. He'd learned from a young age that Mama's silence wasn't ignorance, it was protection. She never talked about his father. Never explained why he had no siblings. And never, ever allowed him to walk through the school gates without scrubbing his shoes and fixing his posture like he belonged. Because in Beulah, confidence was currency. And shame. Shame was a scent the rich could smell from miles away. But at 14, Dan had questions. The kind that gnawed at his chest in the middle of the night. One day after a history test, he was called into the principal's office. Not for punishment, but praise. Your essay on Nigerian post-colonial politics was excellent, the principal said. You think like a man who understands power. Dan had nodded, smiling slightly, but something in the way the man looked at him stirred discomfort, admiration mixed with recognition. As if he'd seen those eyes before. That night, in the quarters, Dan waited until Mama Sarah returned from scrubbing the chemistry lab floors. Mama, he asked softly, who is my father? Her hands froze midair. The mop bucket spilled over as if mirroring her soul unraveling. You don't have one, she said, voice firm. You have me. And you must never, I repeat, never, go near Chief Babalola's wing of this school. Dan blinked. Chief Babalola, the wealthy board chairman whose children wore diamond-encrusted wristwatches to school. The man whose political ties stretched from Abuja to Dubai. The man whose face was printed on the school's foundation wall. Why would she mention him? Why did she tremble when she did? And why did Dan look exactly like Babalola's son, Jimmy? 3 weeks passed, but Dan couldn't shake it. The mention of Chief Babalola had planted a seed of suspicion in his heart, one that began to grow with every passing day. He started watching Jimmy Babalola more closely. The resemblance was uncanny, same broad forehead, same intense, thoughtful stare, even the same crooked smile when amused. But Jimmy was a brat, shielded by privilege and arrogance. Dan, on the other hand, knew pain. Hunger. Sacrifice. Still, they walked like shadows of each other, separated only by class and lies. Curiosity turned into obsession. Dan broke into the staff records room late one evening, using a stolen key from the old security guard he'd befriended. There, in the dim glow of a rechargeable lamp, he rifled through student files, his heart pounding. He found Jimmy Babalola's records, and froze. Under parental contacts was a photo clipped to the inside cover. Chief Babalola and a woman, elegant, flawless, cold. But it wasn't her that caught his eye. It was the man. His father. Dan touched the photo like it was a mirror. Then, something caught his eye. A scribbled note in red pen at the corner of a folder labeled, "Confidential, Staff Only." It was a disciplinary record from 16 years ago. The staff member's name, Sarah Olewo. The offense: inappropriate relationship with a board member, investigation closed due to lack of evidence. It was dated precisely 9 months before Dan's birth. He dropped the file like it had burned him. His mother wasn't just hiding the truth. She was protecting him from it. From a scandal that would have destroyed more than just her job, it could have dismantled the Bobolola empire. If the world ever knew that Chief Bobolola had fathered a child with the school cleaner, a child who now studied alongside his legitimate son, everything would implode. And suddenly, Dan understood why Mama Sarah always cleaned in silence. Because if she ever spoke, the truth would be louder than any broom or brush. The next morning, Mama Sarah noticed it immediately, the way Dan avoided her eyes, the tremble in his voice when he said good morning, the tension in his shoulders. She didn't ask. She already knew. Mothers always know when a storm is about to hit. And this one? It had been brewing for 16 years. As she scrubbed the staff restroom floors in silence, her thoughts raced. She had once trusted Chief Bobolola, back when she was young, naive, and convinced love could survive class. He had promised her everything, a job, an apartment in Lekki, even a wedding in his private estate. But when she got pregnant, everything changed. Suddenly she was a liability, a stain on his image. He paid her off with hush money and terminated her from his staff position. Only a sympathetic headmistress offered her the cleaner job after a year of begging. She had raised Dan alone, in shame and secrecy, never asking for a dime. She refused to let her son grow up as a dirty secret or a pawn in some political marriage. But now, it was only a matter of time before Dan confronted her. And when he did, she wasn't sure she'd survive it. That evening, he did. "I know everything," he whispered, voice shaking, eyes wet with betrayal. "You let me sit in the same class with my brother. You let me beg for things he gets handed for breathing." Mama Sarah sat down on the mop bucket, burying her face in her apron. "You think I wanted this life for you? You think I didn't swallow blood every night just so you could wear that uniform? I kept you hidden because the world would eat you alive if they knew. But I'm not afraid of the world anymore," Dan said. "I'm afraid of becoming like him. And if I don't get out of here, I will." He stormed off. That night, Dan didn't come back to the servants' quarters. He slept in the empty, unlocked library, curled behind the biography section, clutching a file folder and dreaming of money, revenge, and power. The same way his father had once dreamed. The next morning, Dan left Beulah High unnoticed. No one saw him slip through the back gate with only a backpack and the folder of secrets he'd found. But Mama Sarah knew. She watched from the shadows near the kitchen window, eyes swollen from sleeplessness, heart pounding with every second. She didn't stop him. She couldn't. She had known this day would come, the day he would choose the truth over her protection. Dan didn't go far. He found refuge in a cheap hostel in Ojulegba, surrounded by noise, grit, and desperation. For the first time in his life, he was free. And alone. With only 6,000 Nigerian nairas in his pocket and a head full of fury. He found a cyber cafe and began writing, not to vent, but to plan. Letters. Emails. Blackmail drafts. Business proposals. A manifesto of what he intended to become, the son of no one, but the architect of everything. One letter, however, stood out. It was addressed to Chief Bobolola. No threats, no demands. Just a single sentence. "I'm coming for everything you said I'd never have." He never sent it. Instead, he used the next few weeks to learn. He devoured online courses on investing, cryptocurrency, stock markets. Watched YouTube videos on business hacks and affiliate marketing until his eyes bled. By day he worked odd jobs, washing cars, delivering pure water, pushing barrels in Tejosho. By night, he studied like his soul depended on it. And maybe it did. One evening, while mopping a church floor, he overheard two choir boys talking about a tech boot camp sponsored by an NGO. They even give laptop and internet if you pass the test, one said. Dan's eyes lit up. A laptop. Internet access. That was all he needed. He tracked down the application form the next day, filled it under the name Dan Sarah. No last name. No past. Just a mission. Meanwhile, back at Beulah, Mama Sarah sat at the edge of her metal-framed bed, staring at a box under her pillow. Inside it were 20 years' worth of letters, all written to Chief Babalola. None of them ever sent. Some begged. Some raged. One even told him about Dan's first word, Baba. But all those letters were now pointless. Because her son was no longer in hiding. He was hunting. 3 months later, the name Dan Sarah began popping up in obscure tech forums. A teenager from nowhere had just won the Lagos Code Bootcamp with a data-driven app that helped market women calculate profit margins using only voice commands in Pidgin. The tech world buzzed quietly, intrigued. Investors didn't know his face, he refused all media appearances. But his ideas? Sharp. Disruptive. Ruthless. Like someone with something to prove. Dan didn't want fame. He wanted power. The kind that moved silently, like poison in water. With the 250,000 Nigerian Nairas grant from the bootcamp win, he paid for two things, a rented workspace in Yoba and an anonymous domain name, seretech.ng. Within weeks, he built a team of hungry dropouts and misfits, teaching them to code, design, and execute like their lives depended on it. Most of theirs did. His first contract came from a foreign NGO, a 2.1 million Nigerian Nairas project to develop an SMS alert system for remote clinics in the north. He delivered in half the time. The NGO's director was so impressed she introduced him to a Dubai-based investor. Within 2 weeks, he had 8 million Nigerian Nairas in his account and a new mandate, Scale. Dan was only 16. Meanwhile, back in Beulah, rumors swirled. Mama Sarah walked the halls as always, but her shoulders sagged lower. Some students whispered that she was going mad. Others claimed they saw her crying while cleaning the boys' dormitory. One cleaner caught her one day staring blankly at the Babalola family portrait in the reception area. "Are you okay?" the woman asked gently. "I cleaned his vomit once," Mama Sarah replied. "When he was a child. Now his vomit wears gold chains." The woman blinked. "Sorry." But Mama Sarah had already walked away. In the heart of Lagos, Dan rented a 3-bedroom flat and turned it into his war room. Chart on the wall. A whiteboard filled with algorithms, revenge quotes, and one chilling reminder. He doesn't know who I am. But I know everything about him. Then, one night, an old friend from Beulah messaged him on Instagram. "Guy, you won't believe. Babalola's wife is running for Senate. Campaign just started." Dan stared at the screen. So, the queen was stepping out. Perfect. Let the game begin. Senator Felicia Babalola. The posters were everywhere, on the back of Danfo buses, on highway billboards, and even across the digital sky of Instagram and TikTok. A powerful woman with perfect diction, a radiant smile, and a cold, calculated core. She was Nigeria's new political sweetheart. But to Dan, she was more than that, she was the gatekeeper of his father's empire. The real puppeteer behind Chief Babalola's success. Behind her charm lay secrets darker than oil money. Dan's first move was simple, infiltration. He hired a media strategist, a failed journalist desperate for a comeback, and fed him a fake whistleblower report titled, "How a Cleaner Was Silenced After Carrying the Chairman's Child." The journalist didn't need a second nudge. Within days, whispers surfaced online. Anonymous tweets. Cryptic blog posts. Hashtags like the cleaner son and Billionaire trended briefly before being buried. But Dan knew better. Whispers always turn into thunder when timed right. Meanwhile, Senator Babalola's campaign manager was panicking. Someone's playing chess, he told her during a private strategy meeting. If this cleaner story gets legs, the press will hunt for DNA proof. You remember that boy from Beulah? Her eyes narrowed. The one that looked like Jimmy? Yes. That one. Felicia leaned back in her velvet armchair. We told Sarah to disappear. Why is her bastard crawling out now? We don't know if it's him. Oh, it's him, she said, voice icy. And if he wants a war, we'll give him a funeral. Across Lagos, in a dim workspace in Yoba, Dan smirked while scrolling through a hacked campaign group chat. He read every message. Every panic. Every insult. Every slur against his mother. And one thing became clear. They didn't fear him. Not yet. So he decided to change that. He sent an anonymous tip to Punch newspapers. Senator Felicia's campaign funds linked to offshore laundering, details in attached documents. The documents were real. He'd hacked the Babalola Foundation's donation network the week before. By morning, Punch's front page read: Senatorial aspirant under fire for shady foreign funds. It was only the beginning. Because when Dan went to war, he didn't carry a gun. He carried silence, secrets, and code. While the Babalola campaign scrambled to contain the damage, a different fire was brewing, one that Dan hadn't planned for. Her name was Anita Obesai. Smart, gorgeous, and dangerous in a way most people didn't notice until it was too late. She had been in Beulah with Dan years ago, one of the few scholarship girls who had navigated privilege like a minefield. They hadn't spoken much back then, but she had always watched him closely. Anita now worked as a political content creator with a viral gossip blog, Lagos Leaks. She caught wind of the anonymous tip before the Punch story broke. And unlike the other journalists chasing noise, Anita wanted the real tea. She noticed the pattern. Every tech innovation getting foreign attention in Lagos in the past 6 months seemed to link back to one name, Ceritech. Quiet company. No press. No photos of the founder. So, she pulled some digital strings. When she finally traced the IP address of the whistleblower's tip, it pinged back to Yoba, a hub known more for broke tech bros than political intrigue. But Anita was relentless. She walked into the Ceritech compound posing as a business analyst, requesting a partnership. And when Dan walked into the meeting room to greet her, her jaw tightened. You, she whispered. You remember, Dan said with a slight smirk. She stared at him like he was a ghost. You were that quiet boy with second-hand shoes and too many secrets. You're the founder of Ceritech. He nodded. She sat back slowly. And you're the one poking the Babalola empire from the shadows. He didn't respond. Anita tapped her pen. You're trying to destroy them. Why? Because they destroyed us first. There was silence between them, the kind that hangs in the air right before a storm. Then Anita said, I want in. Dan raised an eyebrow. Why? Because I've hated them longer than you have, she replied. They made my uncle take the fall for a scandal he didn't commit. He drank acid 2 weeks after. I've waited 10 years for payback. I have eyes in the media. You have access. Let's burn them together. Dan looked at her and saw not just a partner, but a matchstick. And now he had gasoline. Senator Felicia Babalola threw a private fundraiser that Friday evening at the Dome, an exclusive rooftop lounge in Victoria Island. It was lavish, loud, and dripping in ego. Ministers, oil magnates, and social media influencers clinked glasses of champagne while the senator smiled for photos, her scandal still unresolved but swept under gold-plated rugs. Nigerian politics had a short memory, she was counting on that. But in a corner of the event, someone was watching. Anita had crashed the fundraiser using a fake PR badge, wearing a sleek black gown and a stolen smile. She moved like she belonged. She even greeted Felicia briefly and recorded the awkward encounter on a hidden pin camera. But the real purpose of her mission wasn't the senator, it was her son, Jimmy Babalola. Jimmy was loud, drunk, and cocky. He bragged about offshore trips, his next NFT launch, and how his mother had choked that stupid Punch article in one day. Anita baited him effortlessly, laughing at his jokes, stroking his ego until he invited her to the VIP lounge for private shots. She accepted and pressed record. In that room, between Hennessy sips and ego monologues, Jimmy said 3 things he shouldn't have. That the campaign slush fund wasn't new, it's daddy's old game, we just added crypto now. That they had paid off a cleaner once, years ago, the one who kept showing up like bad luck. And most scandalously, that he once found a photo in his dad's drawer of a boy who looked exactly like me, but darker and poorer. Anita uploaded the audio that night to an encrypted server and sent Dan the link. He didn't sleep. He paced. He knew this was it, the proof that Chief Babalola and his wife were aware of his existence, and worse, had worked to bury it. The scandal wasn't just political now. It was personal. The next morning, clips of Jimmy's drunken confession began appearing anonymously on WhatsApp groups, Twitter, and Facebook. One version was captioned, "Even bastards know their siblings when they see them. #Beulah Secrets #Babalola exposed." The internet exploded. Chief Babalola, on a business trip in South Africa, reportedly collapsed when he saw the trending clips. His wife went into full damage control, and Beulah High School quietly updated its board of directors list. Her name was gone. And far away in Yoba, Dan sat across from Anita in his cluttered office, staring at a vision board with one final face still unmarked, his father. Anita looked at him. "What's next?" Dan's voice was calm. "Now we make him beg." Chief Babalola had ruled his empire with charm, strategy, and a dose of quiet brutality. He wasn't the kind of man who bowed. Even when scandals brushed his name, he made one phone call and they disappeared. But this was different. The video leak had not only touched politics, it had touched bloodlines, legacy, and worst of all, the truth. For the first time in years, he felt haunted. He returned from South Africa under heavy disguise, sneaking into Lagos in a private jet and avoiding the press. From the moment his feet touched Nigerian soil, his phone wouldn't stop ringing. Old friends distancing themselves. Campaign donors pulling out. A pastor even cancelled a photo op blessing. But the most haunting thing of all? An untraceable envelope on his desk at home. Inside it, a photo of Dan at age 5, in a tattered Beulah uniform. A copy of a DNA test, 99.97% match. A handwritten note. "Your silence built me. Now it will bury you." Babalola nearly crushed the note in his fist. He turned to his wife, eyes bloodshot. "He's not bluffing." Felicia's face twisted. "You told me she had an abortion. You told me it was handled." "I paid her off," he backed. "I didn't think she'd keep it." "You didn't think," she hissed, "and now your bastard is about to burn down everything." Babalola's lawyer advised immediate negotiation. "This boy is smart. He's not asking for money. He's asking for leverage. We have to find out what he wants, and contain it before he goes public with the full truth." So they arranged a secret meeting. A black SUV rolled into an abandoned hotel compound in Ikoyi. Babalola sat in the back seat, flanked by 2 security men. The car door opened. Dan stepped in, no guards, no fear, just a black hoodie and piercing eyes. For a moment, father and son stared at each other. "You've grown," Babalola said quietly. "You haven't," Dan replied. The old man sighed. What do you want? Dan leaned forward. I want your board seat at Bobolola Group. I want a stake. 20%. Publicly. You'll announce it at your next press conference. You call me your son. The chief's face twisted. You think I hand my empire to the bastard of a cleaner? No, Dan said, slipping a USB stick into his hand. But I think you'll do anything to keep what's on this drive from reaching Sahara reporters. He got out and slammed the door. The SUV remained still for several minutes. Then it drove off. That evening, Chief Babalola's assistant made a cryptic press release announcement. A major restructuring and family recognition is coming soon at Bobolola Group. Stay tuned. But behind the scenes, the king was crumbling. And the cleaner's son was rising, in silence, yes. But this time, everyone could hear him. Mama Sarah's silence is no longer just a sacrifice, it's a shield. But behind every quiet cleaner lies a story too loud to stay hidden. Dan's truth is knocking, and the door it's about to open will shake everything. Power. Betrayal. Legacy. Kings will fall. Mothers will rise. And the world will finally hear what silence sounds like. You think you've seen scandal? Wait till part 2. Subscribe now, so you don't miss the truth. Thanks for watching. See you in part 2.